Okay, welcome back to, or probably for the first time listening, the No Name Nonsense Podcast.
Woo! No name nonsense.
Yes,
Y'all see the name.
Yes.
Finally got a name. Only took us about 6 episodes.
Right.
Hey.
I was going to roll with the No Name Podcast for as long as the wheels will fall off, but incorporates everything. So, for this podcast, because we don't really talk about one thing in particular, we talk about a litany of things, and we don't have a name, and we talk a bunch of nonsense. Yep. It's like a good marriage.
Perfect fit, though.
Better than Cardi B and Offset.
Yeah.
Hey, it's hot topics and it's random questions that we think about during the week.
Right.
Exactly.
We more like Will and Jada, more like Denzel and his wife.
Yeah.
We got that forever love with the name.
Sure.
Speaking of that, we want to take a moment because we're gonna get a little serious here for it, but. Breonna Taylor's family and estate was paid $12 million by the state of Kentucky or the city of Louisville for her death at the hands of police who were executing a no-knock warrant. No cops have been charged. Nothing's gone on in that side, so they did pay out $12 million. Now, this $12 million was a settlement, not a civil suit mandated by the courts. So in this settlement, the city and the state is still not saying they're guilty of anything. They're just saying they're paying this kind of to make it go away. So I guess we'll throw it over to Tunes. What you got on this?
Only question I have is, it's just still a very unfortunate situation, and my condolences to the Breonna Taylor family and friends. Does a $12 million settlement compensate for the loss of a loved one?
Go ahead, Mama Steve. I'll let you have this.
It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but to me, it's hush money. There's no justice was served. They're still not charged. They're still not arrested. It's like they literally gave the family this money, like, here, have $12 million, and we'll just make it go away. It's not going to go away.
You still can't sleep at night.
You still can't sleep at night. You lost a daughter, a sister,
that was
a cousin.
Executed.
Exactly. $12 million is not going to bring that back. It's not going to bring any of that back. It's not going to bring her back. It's not going to rewind the situation like it never happened. This is a human life that we're talking about. She was sleeping. She rested her head on that pillow, thinking that she's going to wake up the next day, a brand new day. She probably had plans to go to work, go shopping, maybe make a cake.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Who
knows? And we'll never know. But you can't erase what happened with $12 million.
Right. No. First, to answer your question, no. let me start there.
Yeah,
no. The $12 million is not worth the life. I can only imagine if I was a parent. I have 2 daughters. One of my daughters were killed by anything or anybody, let alone a government official. $12 million would not be nowhere near the memories, the times, the future that will be lost between that. And some things I do want to point out or just kind of mention. One, I think the New York Times did a whole article on, I guess, step by step, time by time, how the whole thing played out. So I don't get your facts from us. Even reading that, probably want to do some other fact finding as well. But so it's little stuff going on. So evidently, the police got this warrant because Breonna's ex-boyfriend, I guess, was a drug dealer, supposedly, allegedly. And he would get packages sent to her home that were possibly drugs. Now, from what I've heard and ascertained, this warrant that was given to the officers were based off of them saying that to the judge, because the judge gives out the warrant, the officer said to the judge that the post office has been suspicious of certain packages going to this home. And that's how the warrant was allowed. Because I guess 3 or 4 of the warrants were given out at the same time. And so 3 other no-knock warrants were happening for the same kind of situation. Looking for drugs and stuff in this one. From what I heard, information came out that the officers lied on that. And that the post office had never mentioned or had any record of stating to the police that they had suspicion of packages going to this home. So here's the thing for me. if we're going to justify the police going and doing a no-knock warrant, supposedly the boyfriend shot first, supposedly, and then the police returned fire, which I've talked to some officers who've done no-knock warrants. When they bust in, if a shot or, let's say, anything that could damage the officers is fired, I was told they're supposed to retreat, announce themselves, and then re-engage. So that didn't happen, but I don't know what the rules are in Kentucky if they're supposed to do that. That was just me talking to someone locally in Georgia. They didn't do that. But if you're going to say, well, they shouldn't be prosecuted because they were returning fire as in self-defense or whatever. Okay. One officer went around back and fired indiscriminately into a window. Once you heard the gunshot, they fired that officer. Did not charge that officer, though. So if you felt it was enough to fire him as a cop, but you didn't charge him, that's a question mark for me. My point of all this is, whoever reported the warrant incorrectly should be fired and should be charged. Mm-hmm. The judge who allowed the warrant to go through, not saying they'll convict anybody, but the judge should be charged as well, because improper information was given to them and they made a judgment call on improper information. The judge's discretion is supposed to find out if this stuff is true, which probably wasn't done. Those are my biggest beefs. The people who lied and the judge who allowed this warrant to go on based off a lie. They should be charged. Again, not saying to be convicted, but that's where the justice is going to be at. I think it's very unlikely that you're going to get justice in a situation or charges for people shooting back or shooting into in a no-knock warrant when they're thinking that they're being attacked, possibly by a possible drug dealer. And I'm going with the cop's perspective that they bust in, shot is fired, they shoot back. If it is the law that they were supposed to retreat and re-enter, then all of them should be charged as well. The problem with all this is that no one's being charged, and we know that when it comes to death in general with police officers killing anybody, it's slow to react to charge anybody. Mm-hmm. And that is the problem that goes on in this situation, is that it's too many people dying without even justice having the opportunity to be examined to see if it can be served. Justice can be served if you go to trial and you get acquitted. Correct. That's justice served. That's the justice system doing what it's supposed to do, deciding if you're guilty or not by a jury of your peers. I'm not saying justice being served never has to be that everybody that goes to trial gets convicted. The point I'm trying to say is that you should at least go to trial. If somebody dies, somebody should go to trial, period. And the fact that no one's going to trial and you pay $12 million in a settlement is your way of saying that, hey, we don't think you did anything wrong, but we need to let you leave because we know we did something wrong. Yeah. Like, that's what I look at as a settlement is. Hey, we're going to say on paper we did nothing wrong, but here's this money because we probably did something wrong.
I have a couple of questions in regards to the settlement that I've been wondering about. Because, we live in a society, it's, what is justice? Innocent until proven guilty. Mm-hmm. Well, we all live by that. We should live by that. And I will say this right now. They need to do a full-scale investigation. They need to bring them to trial, and the jury of their peers needs to make that decision. Right. We have not seen anything in regards to that yet. No. So here's my question in regards to the $12 million settlement. Mm-hmm. First of all, if this news story, if her death did not make such substantial national news as it is right now, do you think that the state would have still offered the family this $12 million settlement?
Hell no. Hell, they didn't have any body cams on. So these jokers was trying to bury this, but go ahead.
This is why I think it's hush money. First of all, we don't know the details of the settlement agreement. Mm-hmm. We don't know if there is a, a non-disclosure agreement. We don't know if, okay, in terms of this settlement, you can't talk about it. You can't make any more media appearances. You can't do any of that. So I'm curious to know if that's going to be something that is this it? Do they expect that we just don't talk about Breonna Taylor ever again?
That's the hope.
I mean, or if the family come, no more. Is there not going to be any more media press in regards to the family coming forward and calling for justice? I mean, is this it? That's my question. Is $12 million going to just make this all go away? And if that's the case, then what was the point of bringing the awareness of saying her name, of calling for justice? Well, I mean, what was the point? I mean, this is just because this is. I will say this. this is probably not going to be the final incident of this caliber.
I
You know, who knows what's going to happen in the future? Look at all of. I'm sorry that this is just a passionate thing for me right now, because you have an innocent life lost. You have an innocent life lost, and they tried to shut people up with money.
Right.
I mean,
well, and then also I think in some of you, with the settlement, from what I heard, they're supposed to only allow so many no-knock. Well, sorry, they're supposed to be getting rid of all no-knock warrants in that city or state. I can't remember which one. So that's one that's going to change because of the settlement. And I think the second one is that they can only give out a certain amount of warrants in general at the time. So I think that's one of the things they're saying that is going to be changing it. And there was a couple of little things that in part of the settlement that was supposed to change as well.
Okay.
So, I mean, it has been some change going on, and I think we're always going to be in an eternal battle for the justice system to actually dole out justice. It's just a sad thing. But, and also to the second point, this is my second point that I've been actually asking people too, is that, all right, the $12 million settlement, that state pays for that. So the taxpaying money pays for that settlement for that family. Now, I don't say this in the sense that like, oh, well, then next time you get a jury for this, don't do anything because you don't want to pay taxes on it. But everybody in America loves their money. You don't want to be taxed because you want your money. You don't want to do this because you want your money. You want to do this because you want to make more money. Are you guys so ready to back pretty much a license to kill for officers so badly that you're willing to pay for it? Because that's what you're doing. If we were to tally up the money across the United States for settlements for officers doing misdeeds, you will be shocked at how much tax money we're paying just for that. So are you so fine that you'd rather keep things the way they are and just keep paying for this? Or would you rather make change, which could save you on your taxes, which could actually put more money back in your pocket because you're not paying for settlements for misdeeds? And that doesn't include just killing people. This is for brutality. This is for racist tweets and it's a numerous things that cops get sued for, that get civil suited for, that the state pays for. Not out of the police pension, not out of the police union money, comes right from the taxpayers.
Preach.
So I need everybody to have a real discussion with yourself. Are you fine with paying money to allow these people to have a license to kill? And if you are fine with that, I don't ever want to hear you talk about how much the government's charging you for taxes. I don't want you to ever tell me about how voting for somebody because they're going to lower your taxes. I don't want to hear that anymore. If you're fine with saying, hey, keep the things the way they are, I'm cool with just paying this money out on settlements. Because if you're not cool with it, then you need to be with all these other people fighting for the changes so that you won't have to pay these settlements out later on. Taking changes so that, you know what, cops do things that they're supposed to do constitutionally and that people are protected properly while still getting the bad guys. So that's my question for everybody out there. If you're fine paying these settlements, go have at it. I'm not fine paying these settlements, especially when there's some real shady stuff that goes on in police departments that we've known over time now that happens quite frequently, but people like to deny it and just say it's a few bad apples. No, it's a lot of bad apples in there. It's a lot of bad apples in police departments, and I'm not afraid to say that. I have police officers that tell me there are a lot of bad apples in police stations. And when I say, well, why don't you say anything? They say, well, if I say something, I become ostracized in my police department. I become the guy that nobody wants to help. I become the guy that when I really need backup in situations, people won't come. Exactly. Exactly. So you get mad at the streets for not snitching, but then you get mad at your officers for not snitching. So and that's why they don't come forward. And it's this blue wall of silence. It's actually, and I forgot the gentleman's name. If you remember a couple of years ago, cat out in L.A., former military, came back, became a police officer, saw so much corruption in the police department, he reported it, they ostracized him, eventually fired him, and then he started going killing cops. I don't know if y'all remember this.
I don't remember this at all.
So this happened, you'll look it up, and I think it was in L.A. He started killing cops. He wrote a manifesto. And in this manifesto, he stated about how the cops are the terrorists in America.
Wow.
And he was trained as a military veteran to take out terrorists. And so he went around knocking out, I think he killed about 2 or 3 cops. Not justifying that, not saying it's good.
Yeah.
I'm saying the point is that a guy with military training sat in the police department, tried to fix it, got railroaded, got fired, and decided these guys are menaces to these communities and tried to take them out. Wow. No, it's not every department. I know it's not every cop. But the driver, and it's actually, he's one of like 2 or 3 people that have done this. Shit. Yeah. Again, but he's one of like 2 or 3 people who did this. He's not a lone vigilante. There's 2 or 3 stories about this going from maybe the 90s up to now of guys doing the exact same thing, being veterans, coming to work for police departments and realizing, oh, this shit's crazy. These motherfuckers is racist.
Y'all the enemies.
Yeah. And decided to take them out. And so I challenge you guys, before y'all say support the blue, I support officers. I support officers doing their job the right way. Exactly. I support officers doing the right thing and helping the communities. I support officers who actually give a shit about their communities and actually know the people in the communities that they're policing and want to make a see do better. I don't support the ones who just come in and click the clock in, go to these communities, treat us like dogs, treat us like trash because you just happen to catch one drug dealer after 3 months. After you shit on the whole community for 3 months. Like, that's the ones I want to get rid of. That's the ones I want to be held accountable to say, hey, you can't do this. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, we protect those guys like we protect the guy we said originally, the one that actually cares about his neighborhood. Yeah. We protect them in the same blanket, and it's like, no, they're not the same.
Yeah, just because they have a gun and a badge doesn't make them good. Good guys.
Exactly.
It doesn't make them good guys.
We're the only kind of nation that has issues with policing. Mm-hmm. Why is that? I mean, only, let's say, very popular, fortunate, economically savvy country has problem with policing. Why is that?
I have something to say in regards to that.
Oh, go ahead.
So I've had 2 experiences with police officers that I acknowledge white privilege. And I'd like to share that if that's okay.
Sure. Oh, go ahead. Go right ahead.
So I remember waiting in a Starbucks line, and there was an officer in front of me, and he actually bought my coffee for me. Mm-hmm. That was very nice of him. And then I had one incident where I was being pulled over by a cop on my way to work, and it was just him telling me that my headlight was out. That's it. Mm-hmm. And really, I've gotten a traffic ticket before, and I went to court, had that dropped, just like a normal American citizen who gets a traffic ticket. You go to court, you say I'm sorry, and I didn't know what the speed limit was. I got it dropped, and that's that. Growing up, I was always taught, whether it was by family, by school, whatever, the stigma of cops was the police officers. They're there to protect us. Mm-hmm. They're there to fight crime, to enforce the law. And they are always there for you. But now, growing up, I see that is always not the case. And yes, I do support police officers. But I support police officers because I want them to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. I want them to do the job that they are trained to do appropriately, to look out for us, all of us.
Equally for everyone.
Exactly. So we all enforce the law. We're law-abiding citizens. We want our police departments to do the same. We want to make sure that the training that they've received is the proper training that they utilize. Mm-hmm. Now, every scenario is different. If you have someone that they're arresting that is being belligerent and fighting against them, there's appropriate manner to do that. I don't know what that appropriate manner is because I'm not a trained police officer. I don't know the process, but I would think it would be, detaining them, bringing them in, booking them, and charging them with aggravated assault or something. Right. They're enforcing the law.
Not shooting them 7 times in the back with
exactly.
3 kids in the vehicle.
Exactly. I would like to say that I want officers to do the right thing, to do their job accordingly and appropriately. We're not out to get officers.
Right.
We just want them to do their job, and we want the state, the government, to do the right thing when it comes to situations like this.
Right.
Do the right thing, not just for the family, but for all Americans that live in this country that are law-abiding citizens.
And don't get it twisted. I feel the same way about the cops as I feel about my community. I want everybody in my community to not commit crimes. I want people in my community to not kill people. I want people in my community to do a better job of taking personal accountability and progressing themselves. I'm 100% for that, but I expect the same thing out of the government officials who are charged and trained
exactly
to do that job. So I don't think that's a hard ask.
Yeah.
I don't think that's very out of the normal.
We cannot control the people in our communities. And,
right.
They're not trained to be a specific way or, act a certain way and be positive and be law-abiding citizens.
Right.
But the law enforcement is
supposed
to be.
Right.
That's why they have a badge
yes.
and a gun.
Yep.
Yes.
And other weapons and tools.
Yeah, you took the oath.
Exactly.
That is why, yes, we cannot control the general public.
Yeah.
But what we can ask for is the police officers and the police departments to do their job appropriately and accordingly.
Right.
And just be consistent.
Exactly.
That's
and
the
to
everyone.
And to
That's the
treat
thing.
Of any color.
and to treat all American citizens with respect and dignity.
Right.
That's it. I mean, that's all there is to it. We
Obviously, it's a lot to ask. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, and that's what
I
was talking to a buddy about it because he was talking about the Breonna tale, and I'm not going to name the clip of the person he sent to me because I don't call people Uncle Toms or I don't call people Sambos because the real terminology is a Sambo. I don't call black people that because I think it's destructive. But the person he sent to, I have strong disagreements with his view. What I told him is probably summing up this whole thing is that black people, we just want to be treated the same way with the same statistical value and the same appropriate response that they would have given to a white American. That is it. If you would have done the George Floyd to the way he was acting, whatever, to a white guy consistently, and that's happening to us, we wouldn't care.
Complain.
Yeah, because we wouldn't see the other side of it and go, well, why did they get this and we get this? We would only see this as equal treatment. And then that's a whole other discussion that as all of us, no matter what the race, can have.
Yeah.
If we encounter police at a certain level, we want the same statistical odds of not being killed that white people have. We just want the same statistical odds. That's all. That's what equality is.
That's yeah.
But when we don't get that, now we have to ask for further things, like to change the laws so you can do less to us, because if you don't change the law for you to do less, you're going to do the most.
Yep. Correct.
And that's where we are. So if you gave us the same statistical odds, we wouldn't even be probably crying and stuff. But no, you don't. So we have to say, no, well, then you can't do a chokehold. Well, then no, you can't go over the no-knock warrant. Well, no, you can't, because when you do those things and it comes to us, we get the worst part of that.
Yeah, it's not like we're asking to be treated better than white people.
Right.
We want to just be treated equally.
Yes.
Like, we don't hear about white people being gunned down by the cops with no weapons and none of that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We just want to be treated equally. Like, we don't, you know what I'm saying? You got a white person going into a church and killing innocent people and it being taken to McDonald's.
Yeah.
With no cuffs.
Oh my goodness! I will say this.
And then we got a guy getting shot down in front of his 3 kids in a vehicle with no weapon. Like, come on.
The kid you're talking about, he's from my hometown.
Roof, whatever his name, Dylan Roof.
Yeah. And
Fucker.
also the incident that occurred I have family that live in that city.
Mm-hmm.
And, you want to talk about a very difficult day to process.
Yeah. Like,
I mean,
obviously there was some sympathy and compassion there.
Yeah.
But we don't get that.
No.
And
You took a Burger King. Get out of
and
here.
Like, we get treated like dogs.
as a white woman, I will say this publicly. I've never had that experience of what you go through on a daily basis, but
I mean, most don't, and they don't understand, and they're not willing to understand. They don't want to.
Yeah.
I will acknowledge that I cannot say that I understand the struggle because I am white. But what I can say is I support you 100%, and I'm all for the equality movement as well, because I would like to see everyone that I love have the same equal treatment as any race would.
You just have compassion and sympathy for mankind, whether
Yes.
white, black, and that's all we're asking for.
Yeah.
Yes,
That is all we're asking for.
and that's all that I want to see in my lifetime. And when I have children, I would, love for them to have the same compassion.
Exactly.
Because you're not born with ignorance. It's
Absolutely.
something that you learn, and it's really sad to see people, ignorant.
Yeah.
And they're closed-minded, and it breaks my heart. It really does. I can't emphasize with the struggle that you're going through. I mean, I can, but I can't say that I understand.
You can relate.
I can't relate.
You can relate, yeah.
Well,
But I can support you,
Mm-hmm.
and
I
I
will say
do support
this.
you.
We went real heavy, so I know
We did.
people are gonna be itching. But so I promise you guys, the rest of the podcast is gonna be a lot lighter, a little bit more fun and more enjoyable. Again, please check out the playlist on DJ Tunez and Corny J on Spotify. Because then after you finish listening to us talk about this one, you're probably going to some really good music that's going to put you in a way better mood than what we just Debbie downed you on. But it had to be talking about, it had to be spoken about, and I really, really commend Mama Steve for coming and giving her perspective on this, because I think that conversation is needed in the atmosphere in the diaspora. And definitely thank DJ Tunez for speaking on it. And then myself, like I said, I am passionate about this stuff, so I always try to keep it light here. But this one, I think we just had to really kind of unfold some things and really get some stuff on the table. So again, guys, check out the playlist on Spotify, DJ Tunez and Corny J. Will be music in here. If you're just listening to the podcast, I promise you it's going to get a lot lighter, a lot more fun, a lot more jokes. So appreciate you guys sticking with the No Name Nonsense podcast in the building.
Woo!